What weren't the priests able to drink when they came into the tabernacle of meeting? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Leviticus on Walking Through the Bible.
Glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Leviticus chapter 10. We're going to be reading from verses 8 to 15. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Leviticus chapter 10, beginning at verse 8. Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tabernacle of meeting, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that you may distinguish between holy and unholy, and between unclean and clean, and that you may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them by the hand of Moses. And Moses spoke to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar, his sons who were left. Take the grain offering that remains of the offerings made by fire to the Lord, and eat it without leaven beside the altar, for it is most holy. You shall eat it in a holy place, because it is your due and your sons' due, the sacrifices made by fire to the Lord. For so I have been commanded. The breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering you shall eat in a clean place, you, your sons, and your daughters with you. For they are your due and your sons' due, which are given from the sacrifices, the peace offerings of the children of Israel. The thigh of the heave offering and the breast of the wave offering they shall bring with the offerings of fat made by fire to offer as a wave offering before the Lord. And it shall be yours and your sons with you by a statute forever, as the Lord has commanded. In our last episode, Nadab and Abihu were struck down by God for offering strange fire to him. They were buried outside the camp, but Aaron and his two remaining sons were not allowed to mourn them in any way. They must remain inside the tabernacle of meeting. With this now done, we come to the events of verses 8 and onwards. Moses gave Aaron and his sons a command that they weren't to drink wine or intoxicating drink when they came into the tabernacle of meeting to serve God, lest they die. What Moses is impressing upon the priests is that performing in the service to the Lord in the tabernacle was a job of a sober person, not a drunk person, hence why there is such a harsh penalty for disobeying. Some commentators presume that because this prohibition was given here, that it must have been that Nadab and Abihu were drunk when they attempted to offer strange fire before the Lord, and so that contributed to the reason why God struck them down. Well, I guess it is possible that Nadab and Abihu could have been drunk. The passage tells us that it was because of the strange fire that they were struck down, not because they were drunk, so we can't say with any certainty as to the sobriety of these two men. What is clear, though, is that Moses needed to remind Aaron and his sons about the seriousness of their work, and thus the need to be sober. Without delving too deeply into the topic, we simply can't pass by this passage without bringing up what some people like to do from it, which is advocate that drinking alcohol as a beverage, by inference, is acceptable because God had to ban it here. The wine used here comes from the Hebrew word yayin, which can mean fermented or unfermented juice from the grape. Intoxicating drink comes from the Hebrew word shikar, which always means an intoxicating drink made of any type of fruits or grains. While I might concede that both yayin and shikar could both refer to intoxicating drinks in this passage, that doesn't make it a necessary inference that just because it was banned in this instance, that drinking it as a beverage was acceptable before God in other cases. We have already seen its terrible effects to Noah in Genesis 9:21. When we get to our study of Proverbs, the Lord willing, we're going to see that it was not to be drunk in its alcoholic form. Alcohol had a lawful use for the body, and it was for medicinal purposes, as is seen in Proverbs 31, verse 6. But the priests were not even to use it for that purpose if they were serving in the tabernacle of meeting. Just because God had to ban a use of something in one place does not mean he finds it acceptable to use in other places. We have to find authority to determine that. Leviticus 10 verse 9 does not provide for such an authorization by necessary inference. Therefore, if God has authorized alcohol to be drunk as a social beverage, we must find authority for it elsewhere. By obeying this command, the priests would learn the difference between holy and unholy, clean and unclean, a lesson that they could teach to the children of Israel as well, showing us one of their secondary functions, which was to teach the commandments of God to the people. In verses 12 to 15, we again have Moses telling Aaron and his sons what they were to do with what was left over from the sacrifices. Why did he have to repeat it? Because the laws concerning these sacrifices were intricate, and God expected them to be followed. I'm sure that those who watch this podcast on a regular basis have trouble remembering all of the details of each sacrifice. I know that I do, so review is important. The grain offering that was left over was to be eaten without leaven by Aaron and his sons beside the altar, in a holy place, in other words, in the court of the Tabernacle of Meeting. From chapter 6, we know that only the males of the children of Aaron were allowed to eat of it. When it came to the breasts of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering, if you recall, this was part of the peace offering that was to be eaten in a clean place, as was described in chapter 7. That meant that it didn't have to necessarily be eaten in the court of the tabernacle, but eaten at home by the priests. It was also to be shared with the entire priest's family, including the women, for it was a peace offering. This gives us some indication of how the priest's family was taken care of. It would be from this sacrifice. This would be a statute between them and the Lord for as long as the law of Moses stood, showing again God's care for the priests that would serve him. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Leviticus chapter 10, verses 16 to 20, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.